At the will reading, my son's wife laughed. She's getting nothing. I just smiled and left. A week later, the lawyer read my name first, and their faces went pale. The secret. My husband left shocked everyone. My name is Bella. I'm a widow and mother who loved her son more than anything.
The smell of ink and old wood clung to the air the morning I stepped into Harold Crane's law office. 2 weeks had passed since Daniel's funeral, yet I still caught myself setting 2 cups at breakfast. The invitation called it a preliminary inheritance discussion. I thought it was just a formality. I wore Daniel's ring on my finger and took the same bus he once rode to work. When I reached the office, laughter echoed down the hallway, sharp, polished, and familiar. "You actually came," Sabrina said as I entered, her tone dripping with false surprise. She sat beside my son Mark, her hand placed neatly on his arm. "Guess you want to see for yourself that you're getting nothing." I paused in the doorway. "Good morning," I managed softly. She didn't answer, only turned to Mark. "Honey, tell her this meeting is for the family." "She is family," Mr. Crane said evenly from behind his desk. Sabrina crossed her legs, flashing a diamond shoe buckle. Mark wouldn't meet my eyes. "Mom, you didn't have to come. Dad's business is being handled. Just trust us. Trust," I repeated quietly. "Your father used to say that word needs signatures." Sabrina let out a laugh that sounded like glass breaking. "The only signature you'll need is to sign your name off the deed." I folded my hands. If Daniel wanted that, I'd accept it. "Oh, don't worry," she said, her smile painted and poisonous. "He did." Harold cleared his throat. "We'll begin the formal reading next week after the certification arrives." Sabrina's expression brightened. "That won't be necessary," she said, reaching into her purse. A golden envelope peeked from within. "We've already taken care of everything, haven't we, Mark?" His knee bounced under the table, a habit he had when lying. I felt the sting behind my ribs. "Daniel never liked shortcuts," I murmured. Sabrina smirked. "He's not here to complain anymore." When they walked out, the scent of expensive perfume and arrogance lingered. Harold remained seated, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "Mrs. Carver," he said gently, "don't worry. Everything will be settled soon." I saw the brown envelope on his desk, sealed with Daniel's initials. He slid it into a drawer before I could speak. "You'll see soon enough," he said. Outside, the autumn wind smelled like rain. Sabrina thought she'd already won, but she hadn't read Daniel's final chapter, not yet, because what my husband left behind wasn't just a will. It was a lesson written in ink and foresight. When I was younger, people called me precise, sometimes as praise, sometimes as a warning. Numbers never lied to me. They didn't flatter, didn't forget. I spent 35 years as an accountant before I retired, and that habit of checking everything twice had saved us more times than Daniel ever admitted. Mark, our only son, had inherited Daniel's ambition but none of his patience. When he launched his investment firm, Daniel and I put in our savings to help him start. For a while, and it seemed promising. He had charm, clients, and confidence. But charm is like sugar in tea. It dissolves too quickly to feed you. The first sign something was wrong came in the form of a single missing line in a quarterly statement. $40,000, gone under a vague description called short-term credit cycling. I asked Mark about it that weekend. "Mom, it's a reinvestment," he said, waving his hand. "You wouldn't understand modern markets." Daniel's expression hardened. "Your mother understands numbers better than most CEOs I know." Mark rolled his eyes. "Dad, you two still use paper ledgers. Times have changed," I didn't argue. Instead, I smiled and checked the file again after dinner. The next morning, I called the bank manager. By Friday, I knew the truth. Mark had taken the firm's emergency fund and poured it into risky crypto stocks. When the market crashed, his losses almost ruined the business. Daniel wanted to confront him, but I stopped him. Instead, I quietly transferred part of our joint retirement savings to fill the hole. Mark never knew how close he came to bankruptcy, or maybe he did and simply preferred to forget. That night, I overheard him telling Sabrina on the porch. "She treats me like a kid with sticky fingers," he said bitterly. Her reply was smooth and venomous. "Because she doesn't respect you, Mark." She's holding the reins. "Maybe it's time you take them back," I remember standing behind the curtain, the lace brushing my fingertips, realizing how betrayal can whisper through love's own voice. After that, Sabrina made the house feel smaller. Daniel's photo was moved from the living room to the hallway, my floral curtains replaced by gray ones. She started calling our home the Carver Estate, but Daniel noticed. He always did. One evening, as the sun bled over the porch, he said quietly, "If I go before you, Clara, promise me one thing. Don't trust words. Trust signatures. I didn't understand it then. But one day soon, I would." The morning of the official reading felt different. Colder, sharper, as if the air itself knew what was coming. I arrived at Crane and Fellows law firm early, wearing Daniel's favorite brooch, the one shaped like a compass. It reminded me of direction, something my family had long since lost. Sabrina arrived in a white suit that looked more fit for a celebration than mourning. Mark followed close behind, his expensive cologne cutting through the scent of polish and old paper. They didn't look at me when they entered. "Let's make this quick," Sabrina said. "Some of us have futures to plan." Mr. Crane adjusted his glasses, calm and unreadable. He pulled out a single document sealed with a wax stamp bearing Daniel's initials. "This is the last will and testament of Daniel Carver." Mark leaned back confident. Sabrina's lipstick gleamed like armor, but as Crane read, their smiles faltered. "To my wife Clara Carver, I leave the entirety of my estate, all property, accounts, and business holdings, with full rights and discretion." The silence that followed was like the pause before thunder. Sabrina stood abruptly. "That's impossible. I have the updated version, signed 2 weeks before he passed." Mr. Crane didn't flinch. He opened his briefcase and placed another envelope on the table, gold-sealed, just as hers had been. "You're correct, Mrs. Carver," he said. "There was a second version, but your husband anticipated a potential substitution." "Substitution?" Mark repeated, his voice cracking. Crane nodded slowly. "Mr. Carver recorded a directive with the Board of Trustees 3 days before his death. It stated that any newer document not verified by his attorney's office was to be reported to the state's legal commission." Sabrina's face drained of color. "You're bluffing." He placed a small flash drive on the table. "I'm afraid not. On this drive are recordings of our last 3 meetings, including the one where a revised will was offered to me in exchange for a private transfer." Mark's hand trembled. You recorded us?" "No," Crane said calmly. "Daniel did." The words struck like iron. Sabrina tried to snatch the papers, but Crane's hand came down firmly. "Mrs. Carver," he said, his tone unyielding, "you and your husband attempted to bribe a federal witness. Every transaction, every word is documented." I sat still, Daniel's ring warm against my palm. He had always played chess while others played cards. And in that moment, I realized Daniel hadn't left me an inheritance. He'd left me justice, waiting to be opened. The courthouse smelled faintly of ink and old carpet, the kind of place where truth walks slowly but arrives on time. Sabrina and Mark sat across from me, all sleek suits and forced composure. Their lawyer, a man whose smile looked glued on, whispered strategies that sounded more like desperation. I sat alone at my table, calm, my hands folded. Mr. Crane was beside me, silent but steady. The opposing attorney stood first. "Your Honor," he began grandly, "this case is a clear act of manipulation. My clients were deceived by Miss Clara Carver and her lawyer into surrendering assets under false pretenses. This will is fraudulent." The judge, a woman with sharp eyes and the patience of a clock, raised an eyebrow. "Do you have evidence of fraud?" He hesitated. "We believe." "Belief," the judge interrupted, "is not evidence." Crane rose. His voice didn't need to be loud. It carried on its own authority. "Your Honor, these are verified statements from Carver Financial and Daniel Carver's private accounts. 3 separate transfers totaling $1.1 million, all signed and notarized by Mr. Carver himself. He handed the papers to the clerk. Each memo was marked personal provision and long-term care. A low murmur rippled through the courtroom. Sabrina's manicured fingers tightened around Mark's sleeve. Their lawyer sputtered, "These could be fabricated." Crane smiled faintly. "That's why the bank's vice president is here as a witness." Gasps filled the room. Sabrina whispered harshly, "You said he didn't transfer anything." Mark's face went pale. I thought..." "Enough," the judge said firmly. "Everything appears legitimate and properly recorded. Counselor, do you have anything substantial to add?" The lawyer opened his mouth, then closed it again. The judge turned to me. "Mrs. Carver, you've remained silent through most of this hearing. Do you wish to speak before I rule?" I stood slowly, my knees protested, but my voice didn't shake. "I don't want revenge," I said softly. "I've seen what greed does. It empties rooms faster than death. Daniel and I built our lives on honesty. He left me proof of that, not to punish anyone, but to remind us all that integrity doesn't expire." The room was still. Even the judge seemed to exhale. Her voice softened. "Then justice, Mrs. Carver, is already served." The gavel struck once, sharp as thunder, but as I would soon learn, justice wasn't the ending of our story. It was the doorway to something far greater. The months after the trial passed like a quiet tide, steady, cleansing, and strangely full of new beginnings. The estate was mine now, though it didn't feel like victory. It felt like the weight of every choice Daniel and I had made together, resting gently on my shoulders. I could have sold the house, locked the gates, and lived out my days in silence. But silence had already taken enough from me, so instead, I reopened it. Not as the Carver estate, but as something new, Haven House for Women. The first sign I hung on the gate was hand-painted. A place to begin again. At first, it was just me, sorting through papers, fixing leaks, scrubbing away the perfume of old greed. Then little by little, they came. Widows, divorced mothers, women carrying envelopes of debt, eviction notices, bruised pride. Some came in tears, others in silence. I listened. That's all I did at first. One woman, Emily, arrived with trembling hands and a story I knew too well. "My mother trusted my brother with her house," she said. "He told her it was just refinancing. She lost everything." I gestured to the chair across from me. "Then she's exactly where she should be." We worked through her papers together that night, line by line, clause by clause, until she could see how her own trust had been used against her. "Why are you helping us?" Emily asked finally. I smiled faintly. "Because someone once helped me, even when he was gone." Every week, Haven House grew. The dining table where Sabrina once sneered now held stacks of legal pamphlets and tea mugs. The rooms echoed with laughter, with courage, with second chances. One afternoon, Harold Crane visited, carrying a small box tied with blue ribbon. "Daniel left this," he said. "Said to give it to you once Haven House stood on its own." Inside was a brass locket engraved with words that made my breath catch. "The truth never retires." I placed it on the mantel that night, beside Daniel's photograph. The same porch that once felt haunted by loss now shimmered with laughter from women who'd found safety again. Weeks later, I received a short letter. The handwriting was familiar, shaky but honest. "Mom, I'm working at a repair shop now. Sabrina's gone. I'm trying to make things right. I don't deserve Haven House, but maybe someday I can help fix the garden. Mark." I folded the letter and smiled. The roses outside had begun to bloom again, stubborn, red, and alive. Because justice isn't the end of a story. It's the foundation of a better one. And some legacies don't fade. They grow roots and shelter others long after the storm.